So one of the big arguments that Durkheim makes, and it's not in the reading, but he makes it elsewhere on magic and religion, is that magic seeks to coerce a deity. So you call forth an angel or a god or something or some force, and you get it to do your will if you're a magician. This is not prayer. You're not praying to God and hoping that it's in God's will to make something good happen for you. You're calling God forth and saying, you're going to do this. Now, a lot of magic work, especially ceremonial magic in the contemporary world, involves conjuring forth gods, angels, deities, making them submit to you, binding them to your will, and then giving them a job to do to help you out. So this is a little tricky. A critique of magic here is that magic manipulates God, but God isn't manipulatable. So the very act of saying that there is magic, that there's a way to coerce a god using a spell or whatnot, is inherently blasphemous. It's saying something about that God that is not true, because gods can't be coerced. We see throughout this whole tradition of magic in thousands of years, there's all sorts of magic about coercing and compelling and binding and forcing deities to do things. Okay, magic and the non-normative. So magic is weird. Do I have the quote here? I don't have the quote, but I have it in my notes. Magic takes a sort of professional pleasure in profaning holy things, inverting religious ceremonies and its rites. This is not constantly true, but I get where Durkheim's going with that. Magic takes religion and does it in a different way, makes it weird. Sometimes you can just tell something's magic as opposed to religion because it's something familiar, but it's just really weird. So hold on to that weird feeling. Weird is a good category to use to think with. Often magic will use inversions. So you will do things in reverse. The classic things like the Black Mass. So instead of an right side down cross, you have an upside down cross. You'll say the Lord's Prayer backward. So inverting something gives it a sense of power. And we'll see this in different contexts. I hate to even bring up, these notions of Western occult black magic because they're just overdetermined. Anyway, so magic in the church. Religious beliefs, we'll notice, are shared. Adherents of a religion are in a community, and there's a church, which is an institution. One person's ideas that are not shared by others is just one person having a crazy idea. By sharing ideas, that's how ideas can become religion. That's how religions can innovate. So we see on page 115, there is no church of magic. This is really interesting. The magician is only interested in himself or his client. He has no ties to the community. He does not have a community of co-worshipers of other magicians. It's usually him on his own. He's usually kind of a loner. It is the client and the magician. It is a client, not a confrère, not a fellow brother in Christ, for instance. To practice his art, the magician has no need to contact his other peers. He's a loner. He stands aloof, he from his colleagues. Magic ordinarily has no community like the church. Now, we can talk about secret colleges, and we can talk about groups of magicians that exist, but for the most part, it's somewhat anomalous. That's very different in the contemporary world, where most magical traditions today involve a sense of community. So things have changed now. Okay, magic principles, and this is kind of a key thing for understanding Durkheim, and we'll work from here. Magic is about utility. There are no holy objects to be reversed for their sacredness. Any object or technique deemed effective will be used. So for magic, if it works, you use it. But how does it work? Well, there are two principles. One is what I call sympathetic magic or natural magic. And that says that whatever touches an object also touches everything that has any relationship of proximity or solidarity with that object. Parts affect the whole. The microcosm affects the macrocosm. Like produces like. Simulacra, body traces. Let's unpack that. So let's go back to the example I gave before. I want to make people who love each other hate each other. So what do? I have their names. I put them in the spell. Then I take the scale of a snake and the hair of a mongoose, two things that naturally hate each other. And by putting them in proximity to that name, I will make the people that love each other hate each other. Or maybe the hair of a dog and a hair of a cat. Make them fight like cats and dogs. So what does this posit? It posits, one, you can take natural products or natural elements or natural concepts and put them onto something else to change them. Also, it suggests that through ritual, what you're doing is you're making a microcosm, a tiny little world. And then you do actions in that tiny little world, that ritual world. And anything that happens in that little world is thought to have a mirror effect on the larger world. Microcosm affects macrocosm. Also in this, ingredients should be simulacra. What does a simulacra mean? Simulacra should be an essential thing. Let me put it this way. Often we'll use fingernails or hair or the blood of a person and magic. So you take that body traces from someone, that element of their body, you put it in the ritual, and it's as if their body was there. All right, we're moving on to Ratcliffe Edmonds. He's a good guy, teaches at Bryn Mawr. I just became friends with him recently. We're going to look at this book a little bit. We looked at it today, and we'll read a couple of sections out of it. It's fantastic, really easy and accessible. He actually wrote the book from the notes of a course he's taught for years on magic in Greek antiquity. Okay, let's look at some definitions. Now, there's been an incredible, hold on. So the thing is, he's going to start and he's going to talk about what is magic. There's been an incredible amount of thought given and ink spilled over this question of defining magic in the relationship with religion, and sometimes in relationship with science. This is like a history. When we're thinking about magic, it's like a history of great and influential ideas in Western thought. Like I remember I had this analytical studies professor in philosophy who did a whole seminar on God. And I was like, I don't believe in God. I know you don't believe in God. He's like, yeah, but this is the history of like some of the best arguments ever. So looking at what is magic, what is religion, and defining magic is something that is a long and venerable tradition that you're going to try your hand at, because the amount of writing on this dares us ourselves to try to define our own understanding of magic. And I came across this wonderful quote that from Edmonds, and he writes, in her review of several scholarly works on magic in the ancient world, Sarah Iles Johnston refers to Marvin Meyer's comparison of the scholarship on magic to riding a rather rickety bicycle, to riding an old bicycle. We continue to make progress in understanding ancient magic as we pedal forward, working with the evidence. But every once in a while, we need to stop and do some maintenance on the bicycle itself. Our definition of the category of magic is like that bicycle. The definition will always be a bit rickety, but if we spend all our time and energy trying to fix up that definition, we're never going to make any progress. This suggests the joy is in the going. You'll hear me say that a lot. And this actually is paralleling off Robert M. Pirzig's Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. The idea is the definition of magic is the vehicle to look at a lot of data. Sometimes that definition gets off because of the data itself. And at that time, we stop, we mess around with the definition, alter the definition, and keep moving. Just like if you have an old bicycle that you're riding, you have to stop every now and then, adjust the train or tighten the spokes or whatever. So one common observation about magic is a parallel for a Supreme Court justice who said about the difference between art and pornography. He said, I can't define them, but I know pornography when I see it.